Hi, this is Erin Asana with Aspis and Arbitrage. Our show today is delayed gratification and self-control. We put this show together for you guys to just kind of carry the conversation on from last week.
Yeah.
God, that felt like 2 weeks ago.
So we're back from holiday, from summer holiday, and that's what they call it. We are back from vacation, we're back home, and we want to give you a good show. First of all, I want to say, when people are celebrating July 4th, so happy Independence Day to my FBA family. Even though we didn't get our independence
On this day,
1776.
so like 100 years later, and
Right.
not a lot later than that, really, when you start thinking about what liberty really means and independence. We're still not free.
Right. So we celebrated Juneteenth. So we'll salute and celebrate for the FBA family, no disrespect to the other people. What else today? So let's get right into it. We got to do delayed gratification, which is a big thing in investing as far as, we always talk about Bitcoin precious metals because, everybody wants Bitcoin, if you will, 100,000 and 250,000 right now. And you got to just, I like to say dollar cost average into it, and wait until the price. So I've been in Bitcoin since, I don't know, it was $100, something like that, $200.
We had paper.
Yeah, I had paper wallets.
I
Man, it was
just
crazy.
showed one
I didn't even know what I was doing, but all the way from $100, $200, it's up to the price it is now. And people are disappointed with the price now, but that's the delayed gratification that we took, right? Even when we were getting silver, $11 an ounce, delayed gratification all the way up to 24, 25, 30. Same thing with gold. So I'll let her go in on that.
So I always come to you guys from a family perspective because, to be honest, it's one of the only multi-dynamic, multifaceted perspectives that you can have as far as life experience goes. And again, we never know who our audience is. So I really am kind of talking to people who have young children. Even if you have older kids, listen up. Mm-hmm. But for those of you who have young children, especially if they are enrolled in the school system, for those of you who've been following our show, you know that Simon and I, we homeschool our children. And in homeschooling our children, we basically desystematize them. I know it's not a word, I made it up, right? Copywritten, don't copy me. But we desystematize our children because we do understand that the school system, their agenda is to get your children acclimated and programmed for the system, right? So delayed gratification. For my millennials who grew up in the 80s, you remember a movie called Karate Kid, right? It's a very popular pop culture reference. Wax on, wax off. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, let me give you the Cliff Notes version. That's for the millennials too. I don't even know if they still have Cliff Notes now. But Daniel wanted to get right to training for karate. Mr. Miyagi being like, he was like 80 then, wasn't he? Yeah. Mr. Miyagi being about 80 years old had the wisdom to teach Daniel fundamental karate skills before getting him into training by doing mundane tasks, right? So for instance, with the wax on, wax off, wax my car. And that's how he was gonna get the skills to kind of block and do other very skillful karate moves. Also, why am I bringing that up?
Yeah, also with the painting. Painting up and down.
So he could get the skill, right?
Something.
So I'm bringing that up because moms, our job as mothers, we are the nation builders, right? And I'm going to tell you guys this. You guys are in the US where there seems to be tradition offends the senses of a lot of people in the US. Everybody's trying to break out of tradition. Nobody wants to do anything that's traditional. I noticed that people don't even like traditional families anymore. I don't know what that's about. I do know what it's about, but that's another show for another time. And you have to understand that sometimes certain traditions, certain things are good for the soul. They were designed for you to have a better quality of life. So when you start to break away from it, you're noticing people are suffering because they're coming away from certain traditions that were designed to give you the best quality of life. As a mom, our jobs as the nation builders, that's who we are. We're building up the new nation. We're building up the new generation of life forms that are going to take over and run the world and help the world run, or whatever their role is in it. As moms, as small children, we talked about taking on as much responsibility as possible. You were supposed to train your children from toddlers to take on responsibility. Chores, right? I noticed that a lot of young people, a lot of parents who have kids nowadays, kids don't have chores. I don't know who's cleaning houses anymore. Women in their 30s don't know how to cook. And if you don't know how to cook, I don't know that you can keep a house. And you have all of these systems that are coming away from tradition. And then when there are deficits in the life, in your lifestyle, in your life, you notice those deficits because you didn't get the fundamentals when you were supposed to get them. It's kind of like a 16-year-old is not going to be scared to drive on the highway. But when you're 40 and learning to drive, and you'll notice a lot of older people who learn to drive very late in life, they hate the highways. They won't get on the highways. It's scary to them. They're the scary drivers. They have that fear in them because it was a benchmark that was missed early on. And swimmers, I'm just real quick, baby, I'll catch you off. But swimmers, young children should learn to swim. I shouldn't be 43 learning to swim. And for those of you, I don't know how to swim. The West Indian woman don't know how to swim, right? I don't want my hair wet and all that other stuff. He learned to swim as a child. So he swims like a fish when it's time to swim. We taught our children young to learn how to swim. We weren't going to wait till Sean was 21 to teach him how to swim. He's going to be too scared. You're going to be fearful. Bicycle riding, you can't learn, you can, but you're going to be scary as hell because you missed the benchmark of learning to ride a bike. We teach our kids to ride a bike at 4.
At 4, we're 5. 4
training wheels, by 5, they should be riding a 2-wheeler. So you have to have these benchmarks in life, and they're not there because the man is trying to control your life, because God is telling you what to do, and we hate the word of God and all that other foolishness that people tell you. The benchmarks are there because that is how your psyche is set up, right? You have less fear when you're young, so there's a lot of things you need to do on the front end. So when you get on the back end, life kind of rolls easier for you. You're not as scared to take on obstacles and stumbling blocks and all of those things that come your way. Did you want to make your point before I land the airplane?
You landed the plane.
I land the plane.
Well, I was saying, they would tell you that woman is the first teacher of the children. So that is what she is speaking of. And also when she's talking about tradition, as we do on this show, we're talking about building wealth and assets. So you can teach your children at a young age that is a tradition of our family. We build wealth.
And it's just in their mind.
It's in their mind.
There's no mind. What is that? Yeah. People have money blocks. It's a money block.
Yeah, we buy Bitcoin. We're gonna buy some precious metals. That's what we do. We do it weekly. We do it with the children. They see what they're buying. They pick out stuff. And so they understand, and that's a tradition of our family is building wealth. And that's a big thing. You can make it traditional with your family about building. Right.
Now, you hear us discussing building wealth, but one of the things we also go hard in discussing is how to manage it. You can build up all the wealth in the world. If you don't know how to meticulously manage it, it'll be gone in a generation, maybe.
And protect it.
And protect it.
And protect it. Manage it and protect it. And when you see people with a lot of money, they buy bonds and they do all these things, they're protecting their wealth. They're really not looking for a big return. They just have amassed a lot of wealth, and they have to have somewhere to put it to protect it, so it's not stolen, it's not taken away, doesn't lose a lot of gains and things like that. So that's what we talk about: build wealth, manage wealth, and then protect your wealth.
So I'm gonna land the plane that I was trying to land earlier.
Okay.
I'm telling you all of these things from early because chores, that is children taking on as much responsibility as they can. We've come away from that. Not saying everybody has. You may be watching this like, honey, my children do chores every day. This house be clean as a whistle. Good, right? We often tell you guys, we run this house like we're still in the military. You have to. Our children have to have discipline so that they can continue to accumulate wealth. They know how to manage it and they can protect it, right? It's a trifecta. And if not, then the wealth is lost and everything we did was for naught. Two, the idea is that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren are born under the collective consciousness of understanding how to do those three things, because everybody is still training and mentoring each generation into this type of responsibility. Now, in addition to the responsibility of giving your children chores, that means keeping house. It's homemaking. For those women who don't like what I'm saying, shut it off. I'm telling you now, we have to get back to some of the traditional things, because not because God said it, not because the man on TV said that this is what you do, and the YouTuber that you hate the most said that y'all need to get back to it, but because it helps to give you a better quality of life, a more fulfilling life. And again, I'm talking to the moms who already have children. If you guys are working on children, please listen closely. You give them chores to do little things that you know they can handle, and you keep building on that. That way, as they grow up, they will take on responsibility. They won't shy away from it because they'll be used to doing it. These chores, this responsibility that they're taking on, also exercises their muscles of delayed gratification. Back when I was growing up, my mom, she was a nurse at a hospital. She used to work a lot of hours. My dad worked for the phone company. We lived on Long Island. My parents worked in Manhattan, pretty far away.
Yeah.
Lots of trains, lots of buses to get back to your suburban house. My grandmother would take me at 5 years old to the supermarket. She would teach me how to shop. Am I as serious as my grandmother? Hell yeah. I'm probably more serious than she is. She would take me to the supermarket and teach me how to shop. We would then go home. She would teach me how to surgically cut up a chicken, how to surgically cut certain parts of meat, how to buy fish, how to look at a fish's eyes to understand that this is fresh fish, this fish is not so fresh, it can make you sick. Little things like that, right? Then we have to cook it. All of this stuff takes time. After we cook it, guess what we gotta do? We gotta clean the kitchen up. You gotta clean the oven, you gotta clean the pots, the pans, the dishes people ate on. You gotta put everything away. You gotta sweep and mop the kitchen. And I'm going on this long list because as a child, I learned not only to take on as much responsibility as possible, because my grandmother handed me the cooking at 9. Right, I had 4 years to get it. And then when I turned 9, I was responsible for cooking. I've been cooking since I was 9 years old. We're cooking a big family dinner right now. Yeah. And I'm glad she taught me that, because I'm able to cook for 6 people. Cooking for 6 people feel like cooking for 60. If it's a small family, if you guys, I only cook, people typically don't cook for 1. That's too much for them. That's why they eat out all the time. It's like, doesn't make sense to cook for 1. I could go get something to eat. It's quicker and so on and so forth. It's like cooking Thanksgiving dinner every single day. Yeah. Right? The delayed gratification. I don't find it to be slaving. I love cooking for my family, but I'm explaining these things because the skills and the character that I built in those mundane tasks have helped me to be more meticulous in the wealth building process with my partner of life, my husband, the father of my children, my business partner, my pet partner who got 2 dogs out there we're feeding, and the cows and the goats and all that other stuff.
Your mentor?
My mentor, right? And because I used to take instruction from my grandmother, from my father, from the military. I'm easily able to take instruction from wisdom when wisdom is speaking. Notice that I said wisdom when wisdom is speaking, because not everybody's partners are wise. This is why there's trouble in the relationship avenue. I know wisdom when I hear it, so I sit at his feet and I listen. I know some of you like to call me masculine because I'm meticulous in these things, but I think that a lot of my husband's mentorship and the time that I spend with him and the influence has rubbed off on me. So I can kind of see and understand what you mean when you say, you got some masculine quality about you. I get it. But I'm gonna cook for my children. I'm gonna nation build. I'm gonna wear a dress. I'm gonna wear a skirt. I'm gonna look pretty. I'm gonna do my hair. I'm gonna be as feminine as I can possibly be. But as the nation builder, as the mother, the closest thing to God that my children have, I am setting them up for a better quality of life by placing responsibility on them, right? And teaching them delayed gratification from young. It's hard to do it when you don't have it.
It's very hard.
And the older you are, the more benchmarks you miss in learning delayed gratification. We often talk about dollar cost averaging. That's delayed gratification at its finest. It's like penny pinching all month long, every month, all year long, for years and years and years.
Years and years and years. Because we did a show on the Sun Exchange, and really you're just getting paid in excess solar power in Bitcoin, and it goes all the way out 20 years. So you gotta, you can cash your wallet out whenever you want, but the idea is to have it for 20 years, and then you cash your wallets out. Set one up for our son. We have one. She has one. I'm sorry, I have one. She has one. And that's delayed gratification, 20 years. You're waiting to see the prestige after all those years. So, and a lot of people don't have that patience. We're in this kind of, I call it microwave society where, everybody expects to get something done right now. And, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a plan, like you said, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, go all the way out, 100-year plan. And we're gonna do a show on the 100-year plan because it's very important, because it's a situation where you have a plan set up for your family that you might not see.
That you won't see.
You won't see. You won't see
You're setting it up for the success of people you will not live to see, but it's based on your hard work.
Yes.
And when you're listening to this new profile, that we keep talking to you about, they don't have a generation to build anything for, nor do they want one. But 2, it's showing you the self-serving aspect where we're coming from, the selfless aspect. Now, we brought the children into the world, so we are responsible for them. There's no way I'm gonna look my sons in the face and say, you get it from the ground like we did. Absolutely not. We don't live for that. But what we do live for is, I don't know that I'm going to be around when my grandchildren is Sean's age or older. Grandchildren. But I do expect that they remember their grandmother and their grandfather loved them enough to say, we are going to work our lifetime for you to have some success and a head start in life. I remember in one of Nas's songs, he said when he lived in Queensbridge Projects, he used to get a paper that had a red mark, fiction.
Yeah.
And that he was grateful that he's a millionaire, but didn't have a head start. Nobody set anything up for him. He had to get it for himself. And now his daughter's a businesswoman and he's so proud of her. And his son is so knowledgeable. And he's trying to set something up for the next generation, right? I'm just bringing that up because that's one of the bars that came to me. The other thing we're talking about is making the decision to be selfless enough to set up a plan, to generate and build wealth, manage it and protect it, so that the children you created, who are going to eventually have some children, hopefully, will have something for themselves, knowing that you will not live to see that promised land. Moses never made it to the promised land. No. He did all of that work, wandered them around the desert, did everything God told him to do. He did get mad at them, and that's why he didn't make it to the promised land. That's a Bible study story for another day. But Abraham was promised to have as many children as the dust in the desert.
Yeah.
He knew he wasn't gonna live to see it, but he did what God asked him to do anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing up these stories because they're the only stories I know that commend delayed gratification, because the world wants you to be impulsive, impetuous, spontaneous, and that's fun, right? We talked about fun. Fun isn't always good, right? Fun gets a lot of people into a lot of trouble, right? Take a jacket with you, it's gonna be cold and county because you had so much fun. So we want to kind of help, like the elders in the community used to talk to the younger people. I don't know where our elders are. And granted, we're only in our early 40s, so I don't know if we're considered elders, but if I'm talking to anybody younger than 42, I'm telling you from life experience, we live in a very tranquil place for a reason. We're not in a, you think we can live in Mexico City? Of course we could. We don't live there for a reason. We have some very specific objectives we want to teach our children. And we don't want them to be influenced by the world.
Yeah, and then we're talking about tranquility, as they call it, tranquilo here in Mexico. That's the word for it. But I would like you to go in, if you will, on the things that the Bible said
About cities,
about big cities, and people kind of, because you know, if you go back and I have to double check these numbers, but these are the last numbers I have. Our good brother, Dr. Millie Fuller, says Black people in the United States live, 82% live in and or around 10 major metropolitan areas. And so what she's going to explain is the benefit of living.
Let me explain this first. The reason why Black people are concentrated in these areas was because of systemic white supremacy. They had to group together so that they can work together in order to survive. And we'll push that to the side, right? In the Bible, the city is always referred to as evil. And whenever you read, the righteous always live in the pastures. It's only because, not that cities are evil, but the egregor, we talked about what an egregor is. For those of you who've read Napoleon Hill, thoughts are things. It's a real thing. When you have a thought, because this is my Siamese twin, y'all, we're literally conjoined at the heart. When I have a thought, I can't tell you how many times you have the same exact thought, the same exact moment I had that thought. And it's almost scary sometimes, but we do understand that thoughts are things, we're on the same vibe, we're on the same frequency. So great minds think alike. That's what they say. Egregors is everybody has this thought, this feeling, or this emotion, and it catches, it's almost contagious. If you live in a city where they won the Super Bowl, what was the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, that they lost.
No, the Kansas City one. Yeah, so Kansas City, I thought the Eagles were supposed to. But Kansas City won the Super Bowl. The city's probably, you know, ecstatic and excited. And even people who don't care about football have a feeling of ecstatic because so many people are feeling the same feeling at the same exact time, right?
And conversely,
if you lose the Super Bowl, like the Eagles probably did, like the Bengals did, Cincinnati Bengals did the year before, everybody feels that deflated feeling at the same time because thoughts are things. These thoughts literally live outside of your head.
And you know, it was Super Bowl Sunday, if you will, everybody's going back to work, school, whatever they got to do Monday morning, and whatever, you know, you're feeling that. Loss, or you feeling that
high of a win, and we're just using that as an example,
yes.
Right? Christmas time is the perfect egregor.
Oh, yes.
Most people are either in a really shitty mood for Christmas or they're in a really great mood, and the two moods collide all the time everywhere you go. You go Christmas shopping, we're either gonna fight for this last toy for our children, or we're in a good mood and we're generous and we're giving, and Christmas is the perfect pendulum swing of, you know, high generosity, low shitty, I'm gonna treat you like crap.
You see it too. I mean, I don't want to go far in this rabbit hole. You'll see it too on Mother's Day. You know, everybody's taking their mother and grandmother's out to eat, and then than what people who are not mothers.
Yeah.
You can see that.
They get
different-
really upset if you
can
don't
see that
know you
different-
think out your
you
mother.
see that different energy. You see it too on Father's Day. But yeah, these are Gregors.
So these are Gregors, and this is why the city is often seen as evil, because it's easier to be in a bad mood than it is to be in a really good mood. It's easier for a group of people to get real shitty real quick, to riot, to violence, when we talk about what is it, looting and stuff like that, than it is to get a whole city to be happy, ecstatic, joyous, so on and so forth. So in the Bible, they always say, you know, the concentration of man is basically evil. They're gonna get together to do something bad. And the righteous are typically one or two people who are off in the cut where they can think, they can meditate, they can do their own thing without the influence of the egregor.
Right, and so if you circle around, you see the Bitcoin community. There's an egregor there that everybody is about, well, first of all, invested in Bitcoin, but second, of the tenets of Bitcoin. You know, that breaks down what would you call it?
What?
It breaks down.
The characteristics of money?
No, it breaks down the typical monetary society as far as, trying to move your money into a different place and not have your money stand in fiat currency, things like that, so I think that you can have that egregor in your space. You have that egregor with precious metals, right?
Yeah, precious metals people, they got their thing. The Bitcoiners don't like the precious, it's the whole thing.
But you got your egregor, but it's still putting your fiat currency into a safe place.
Yeah.
Instead of leaving it out here.
But we're just saying that spaces can become egregors to the point where sometimes there's bad propaganda.
Yeah.
And it's a great space, but in that space, because everybody's so tight knit, it starts to become a them versus us when it's like, you can just do both.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the animosity is about. Even fiat currency has its utility, right? Until you can use Bitcoin to pay all your bills and buy all the stuff you want to buy and go all the places you want to travel to, you can't pay American Airlines with Bitcoin, then fiat currency has its utility. So, what is cash is trash and this and everything has a utility. And that is part of what I'm saying when I say you set yourself aside.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's hard to do it when you are part of the system. This is why we tell you guys to travel. A lot of times when you come out of American airspace, travel with your children.
Yeah.
So when our children are born, at 6 months, they get a passport. Right? That's how we roll. And we take them and travel, we typically take them away from cities so that we can think, we can meditate, we can ponder on the things of the world. Instead of spending hours scrolling Facebook or Netflix binging, we spend a significant amount of time in thought, in books. He likes lectures. I prefer to read.
And I like textbooks. So I really like textbooks.
A lot of technical things. It's good to come outside of the egregor, right? Because what the egregor does is it's very good at wanting to keep you as part of the system. Why are we talking about delayed gratification? I'm about to land this plane one more time. The system wants your money back. And the system gets your money back by giving you what you want right now, right? And what they did was first, they programmed your children to get everything they want right now, right? They did it in the school system because that is the only way when you generate income that they can get it back, okay? McDonald's, it's easier to just go through a McDonald's drive-through and get dinner than it is to go to the supermarket, take it out, wait in line, put it in the car, drive home, prepare it, feed them, wash the dishes, bathe them, put them to bed. The young people are telling you they don't want to do that type of work anymore. And they don't want to do that type of work because they haven't been trained all along. And that means we're talking about pandemic wise.
Yeah, and I'm pivot a little bit and maybe add on to it. The people like to talk about, she said, the cities will take the money back. Understood. A lot of people, it's a whole big thing about making 6 figures or this, that, and third. people will make six figures in a certain place. And we did a show on this because the money is rate adjusted.
Yeah.
It's rate adjusted to make six figures in Manhattan. Okay, that's cool, but the whole city of Manhattan, I'm sorry, the
Yes.
borough of Manhattan will take money back because the prices are so high, right? And rate adjusted, we did a show about that. Rate adjusted 100,000 in New York City, and you actually might make 40,000. Okay? So you have to understand that they're gonna get the money back, and everybody worried about how much somebody makes six figures and this, that, and third. But six figures in certain places really is a six figure.
It's really paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of them are under a lot of crushing debt. Remember, your rent it used to be a third of what you make. I'm sure it's more than that now.
That's what Dave Ramsey tell you, don't go more than a third of your.
I'm sure it's more now. I'm hearing car notes for over $1,000 a month, and you're driving a regular car. You're not driving nothing fly. So I'm talking about brand new car, wives. So what we're saying is, if you understand the game a little bit, you now can manipulate the game to work in your favor. I don't know how many of you guys, I know y'all on the Bitcoin, you're in altcoins. Some of you, we've got on the precious metal cycle, because precious metals is consistent. 6,000 years old, it's proven, right? It's been money for 6,000 years, it's gonna continue to be money, sound money. With that being said, how many of you know that the stock market, the market is psychological? It's not financial. It is based on, you have this corporation, and when I say this corporation, I know it's multiple corporations, but just follow me. You have a corporation that I'm gonna call the United States that spends billions of dollars in market research to understand the psyche of the average person. And then what they do is they create things, situations, events, products, services, in order to manipulate the psyche of the average person. And this formula is by scientists. So it's tried and it's true and it's tested and beta tested.
Yeah, and understand it's called neuroeconomics and behavioral economics. And we also did a show about that quite a while. So if you want to check that out, but it's called neuroeconomics, with a change like she said, you have scientists who research this thing, right? And they're researching it as far as the neural behavior of your brain. And she'll tell me about the pathways in the brain and what happens.
So your brain looks like ramen noodles when you use it a lot, right? When you read a lot, when you do a lot of things that scare you, when you take on opposition, when you take on challenges, when you fight through stumbling blocks, your brain's gonna look like oodles and noodles, right, in the packet. When you don't like to take on responsibility, when you don't like to do new things, when you are adverse to change, when you're scared to take on responsibility, stumbling blocks, things that scare you, your brain looks like oodles and noodles that was cooked too long. You know how they stretch out?
Talking about the pathway.
I'm about to.
Oh, okay.
So how does my brain get to be the tight-knit hard thing that comes in the packet? Your brain, when you do work, whether it's reading or writing, learning something new, taking the time to perform a work, your brain physically takes, like, the electrical impulses create a groove inside of the fibers of your brain. That's why it feels like work, because your brain is physically creating this neural pathway. And the more you do this thing, the deeper and deeper the pathway gets. And the more new things you do, the more pathways you create. After a while, it doesn't feel so much like work anymore, because your brain is used to doing this. Now, when you're adverse to change and you have to do something new, it feels like, you feel like Prometheus. Y'all look up who Prometheus is, do your homework. You feel like Prometheus, right? This electronic thing this electronic wave is working so hard to create this neural pathway. And typically people quit before the pathway can be created. And then when the new thing comes, it's gotta work even harder than the last time. And when the new thing comes, it's gotta work even harder than the last 2 times. And that's why people are typically adverse to reading, because reading is gonna create a neural pathway, right?
Yes,
Whether
yes.
it's fiction, nonfiction, your brain is working to process the words, the context, foreshadowing,
Yeah.
all of those areas of English that you hated, your brain is automatically trying to do that when you read. That's why people prefer to watch YouTube, because listening doesn't make the neural pathway work so hard. Then when you turn us off and you go and you look up neuroeconomics and you go and you do your study on Roman history and the fall of Rome, and you start going in and saying, okay, let me look at delayed gratification and how I can train my children better, how I can train myself better. Then you start creating all these great neural pathways. I read 3 to 5 books a month. I had somebody tell me, I don't read 3 to 5 books a year. So, well, why? I don't like to read. Okay, so like, how do you get new information? Right? It's just a shoulder shrug. Like, I'm not trying to do what you do, man. Okay, that's cool. You know, I wasn't asking you to read anything, but it's just kind of like, oh, right? Like, oh, okay. So then what do you do with your time? Like, just, you know, tell me what you do with your time. Not that. And that's the answer I got. Not that. Okay, cool. So we're telling you all of these things because as we talk to people, we're saying, you know, we're coming away from traditionalism because of technology and because of propaganda. And the two are being given to you on this beautiful plate, right? And it's for your detriment. It's not for your good, it's for their good. And that is where the transfer of wealth happens from your womb. You're pregnant with that child, they're already preying on it. As soon as that baby get that social security number, the state's like, yeah, we about to make some more money because we're gonna train this child to work so we can be rich. We're talking to you guys, this is how we trained or untrained our children so that they can be wealthy.
Yeah, we always make them, I mean, more to say, I'm sure.
It's a lot of work.
Whatever way you decide to build your wealth.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like real estate, things like that. Make sure you teach your children about whatever wealth you have, as precious metals, Bitcoin. We did a show on kids having the codes to our wallets so they understand.
Oh, having your paperwork in order.
Yeah, you have paperwork in order, and then you also gotta have your life insurance. You gotta have, what else you gotta have?
Have everything in order. If you got stocks and bonds, y'all, or whatever you get through your job, have an itemized paper. You gotta be meticulous about your wealth. Now, there's people who got a lot of things to say about me because I'm so meticulous about the wealth that we have, but so much wealth is squandered because people are half-assing what needs to be done. You went through the trouble to get the stocks, you went through the trouble to get the bonds, go through the trouble to fill out the paperwork so that whoever the beneficiary is benefits from your work, right?
Yeah, and you know, she's talking about things going into probate court because we have experienced that personally because paperwork wasn't in order. And you always say about your paperwork being in order, make sure that everything is, like she said, what'd you say, signed and ready to go?
Signed, dotted, delivered. Right.
And also for my people, you know, who have this kind of professional jobs or union jobs and stuff, things, we have these death benefits, right? On different situations. You gotta make sure you change your death benefits to who it needs to be. Right, you know, people get remarried, started a family
2, 3 times.
Yeah, make sure it change your death benefits to who you want to go to. You know, because
all too often the ex-wife get it, and the current wife got the small children that she's in big trouble today.
So you didn't fill out your death benefit, you didn't change it. So these are things you got to be on top of, paperwork all the time.
But here's the kicker: we're telling you all these things because the people who mess it up, nobody sat down and told them all of these things, which is why we've been doing the show every single week, because we're like, you know what? No one told you that. Yeah. And that's why I said last week, I said, I'm not banging on single people, but at 20, you don't know what it's like to be 40. right? You don't know that when you wake up, when you're 41, 42, your left knee hurts. You don't know that your elbow kind of makes a weird noise when you do this.
Yeah.
That you don't have the energy. I remember when I was 19, 20 years old, I could work 5 in the morning till almost 5 the next morning, take a 2-hour nap, go back to work. I was in the military. And not be dragging. At 40, is no way in hell you want to get me to do this, right? These children have taken some of my virtue, some of my essence with them when they left my womb, and I just don't have that type of energy anymore. So it's like, hey, I'm you 23 years into the future. Let me just give you some information so you can make better decisions on what you want to do with your life. And when I say better decisions, even if you arrive at the same conclusion, you're like, okay, I heard everything you said, Erin, and you know what? I still don't want children. I'm cool with that because you got the information, I kind of showed you whatever I could show you. People told you whatever they needed to tell you. You made your decision. You can live better with it because you say, you know what they told me.
Yeah.
They told me, right? It wasn't like I arrived at 42, 43. I have 4 kids and my body is constantly screaming for new children. No, right? But I don't know how I would feel about my body nesting if I didn't have it.
Yeah, that's so I understand what you're saying there. That's definitely a whole soul to
Right, I have
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
I have 4, so I don't feel bad about, no, I'm gonna take my birth control pill. I think I'm good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my body's still nesting for children. It's
Yeah.
used to making children every 4 or 5 years. And it's like, hey, we're at the 6th year. What you doing?
Yeah.
Not that, ma'am. But thank you. But if I didn't have any children, I might be filled with the regret. And when they say your biological clock ticks, it ticks for men too. We watched a great show. Jordan Peterson was talking to, I cannot remember the gentleman's name. He did this whole great study on the same profile of individuals in 5, 6 countries. And he talked to a man and noticed that the pattern scientifically is unplanned childlessness among men.
Yes.
They didn't know they were going to get this far in life and not have a partner to create a family with, and they're filled with the same regret that a lot of the women whose biological clocks are now ticking. Like I know I was on my feminist point when I was 20 and 30, I'm 40 now, my body's saying something different than my mind, and it becomes unplanned childlessness.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, because we speak on things of family, right?
A large family.
And building wealth. You can build up a large amount of wealth without a family or children,
Yeah.
and then you don't have anyone to leave it to. Because for us, it's to build up wealth to leave it to our generations behind us.
Right.
These people can't build up wealth, and there's nowhere to leave it. Nowhere to leave it, really. I mean, you could leave it to the church, you could leave it to some kind of association, something like that.
Foundations, charities,
Yeah,
so on and so
exactly.
forth, but it's not the same
It's
as building something that either lived inside of you, moms, or that came from your loins,
dads. And I'm not even talking, I mean, we use people use the word wealth kind of loosely, but wealth has a definition if you look it up. And even if you only have $500 to leave, you don't have anybody to leave it to. You
but
can have a house.
and $500.
Yeah, you can have anything, a house, a car, like you said, stocks, you can have, precious metal, you can have some kind of digital assets. These people don't have anywhere to leave it.
And then the state just takes it. And that's the end of that.
That's
And
the
then
game.
we talk about these things, we leave the money on the table. The
Right.
system is designed for all of these fail safes that you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And that's what fail safe really comes from, the idea that this is safe for me because you're gonna fail. And those are the things that we want Black people and brown people, anybody really, white people, if you're watching us, to come away from, right? You built up all of this wealth only for the state to be like, thank you, have a nice day, send someone else, right? Or you got a whole bunch of people who could benefit from this thing, but because stuff wasn't in order, thank you, send the next one, we'll take it from them too. Houses get squandered because people don't know how to manage a house, right? No one taught them, no one talked to them. They got left this thing that they didn't have any value for because there was no blood, sweat, and tears in having to put the down payment, pay that mortgage every single month, and keep up the things in the house that fall apart.
Yeah.
So then when that wealth, that asset, which is really a liability, is left to the second generation, they don't know what to do with it. They don't even know how to sell it. Just goes back to the state. But that is too not training your children to manage wealth and understand what it is from young, right? You gotta do this stuff from young because as they begin to grow, they'll just naturally take on the responsibility.
Yeah, so I mean.
So delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification.
If you want to start practicing your delayed gratification, read a novel. Pick a novel, any novel, don't have to be, it can be fiction, but look how thick this is. It's going to take you a significant amount of time from the first word to the last, right? Write a novel. It's going to take you a significant amount of time to structure the story, develop the characters, develop the plots, the multi-plots, the plot twists, the climax, and then the ending. Do something that's going to take you a significant amount of time that you may not receive any type of physical compensation for in order to kind of build that neural pathway and strengthen those muscles for delayed gratification.
Yeah, you definitely, like I said, you definitely do it for investing. You know, big form.
Set an alarm on your phone.
Yeah.
Dollar cost average at 9 o'clock every morning. 9 o'clock once a week.
No.
Once a month, or however you want to set the increments to, set an alarm on your cell phone. You have a silver computer in your pocket, use it.
We always talk about precious metal. Talk about something as simple as silver.
Yeah.
You can just buy an ounce per week, you know, $23.
And that's good because you're getting something tangible.
Yeah.
Right? So you get the one silver ounce, you're like, oh, this is nifty. I like this. I like the way it feels in my hand. It's heavier than my quarter, right? I don't think they have 50-cent pieces anymore, which were really heavy back in the day, y'all. I'm showing y'all my age. But you get that silver ounce, and then you get another one, and another one. You hear them clink together, and then another one, and another one. So you have a whole duffel bag. Be a duffel bag boy. Get you a duffel bag full of silver. It's gonna take forever. But the more you start working towards it, the more exciting it becomes because you are collecting something. It's like saving money.
Yeah.
Right? It's like instead of having a brick of cash.
It is saving money because silver
is sound money.
That's sound money.
It's sound money, it's not fiat. So it's like saving cash then, I guess, because people like those bricks of cash. They like the little red band around it. I got 10 racks. But you know, do something like that. If you have children, get back to the chore game. Get a whiteboard, a green board, chalkboard, whatever you need to. Start assigning chores. No, y'all will not be paid for your chores. You live in this house, you're gonna do the work. Start that way, and then you can introduce an allowance to them. But giving them the work is good for their character building and delayed gratification. Teach your children to cook. Right? Cooking gives you fundamental skills. It's also a survival skill, but it gives you fundamental skills to do other things in life. It's not just cooking and eating. Yeah. Right? There's a skill to it. It's creativity, it's innovation. There's a lot of other things that come in the mundane task of cooking for your family, but teaching is good quality time with the children, and you're giving them a skill that they're going to take with them as they grow up. Right? Cleaning house, homemaking, putting furniture away, decorating. All of these things are giving you fundamental skills to do harder things later on. And we've come so far away from that. People kind of like, you know, I'm gonna get an Airbnb that's already furnished. You're not working towards buying the furniture and all of the skills that you need in order to take on harder things in life. And that's why people are missing benchmarks, and it seems like they're struggling now more than ever. It's that they miss these things and understanding why it's important to be a homemaker, why it's important to learn to cook, why cooking is a skill, because you're learning things fundamentally along the way. Why waxing the car gives you certain skills. If you got to go to the dojo tonight, you got the skills you need to train. Right?
There you go.
So
yeah, but and we're gonna go into this in more episodes.
Yeah.
Just since more depth, we just wanted to give you.
We're gonna send the kids to talk to y'all next week about delayed gratification. I'll let y'all hear it from them.
But that was a great show. You put in a lot A lot of good work, a lot of good points. We kept you guys too long, unfortunately, but we gave you some game.
Yeah.
And, we're gonna see you next month, is that right? And so, happy 4th of July for my FBA people. Salute, FBAs, stand up, and
If you're off, spend time cooking.
there you go.
Talk to y'all later. Bye.